Good afternoon. It's 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, September 6, 2022. We will call the City Council meeting for the City of New Ulm to order. Item number 1, consent agenda. Councilors, what are your wishes?
I'll offer a motion to approve those.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion is carried. Item number 2.1, public hearing recommendations amending the Home Rule Charter and second consideration of ordinance 2022-059 through 2022-064. At this time, we will open the public hearing. If you'd like to be heard, please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. I'm Manon Fraser. I'm from New Ulm, and I'm also part of the League of Women Voters here in New Ulm. And as some of you know, we studied the charter issue, and we just want to go on record as saying we are very fully support the recommendations that were brought forward. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the commission that worked so hard on this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to be heard? I would just state, I know that the League of Women Voters did take this up, and it was a big issue, and I know that they really, really reviewed it and spent a lot of time on, helping to get the Charter Commission, activated and coming together to make some of these changes, so just wanted to thank you for your efforts in that.
That was the biggest change in the charter when looking at it. We had 5 meetings. We spent quite a bit of time talking about that as well and came to the same conclusion. So again, thanks to everybody that served on that commission.
Do we motion? Can I motion to close the hearing? No. Just leave it.
Close the public hearing.
Not hearing anything, I'll go ahead and offer a motion to close the public hearing and propose the amendments to the New Ulm City Charter, and consider this the second consideration, amending the city charter, ordinance number 2022-059, 2022-060, 20-22-061, 2022-062, 2022-063, and 2022-064.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Again, I also sat on the City Charter Commission. I want to thank those members because they did put a lot of time into it, and I think we've got it corrected.
And just to summarize, some of the biggest things that were changed is the addition of a conflict of interest policy, working on some of the incompatible offices, lien for unpaid utilities, departments, so bringing some clarity around departments and department heads, and then just some slight amendments to budget as well. So I think it's a good job, and we get to do it again next year. We get to look it over and see if there's anything else we need to change, so. We'll see. Well, maybe we don't. That'll be great. We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Just going to ask the question, in regards to the liens on utilities, do we have that many outstanding debts as far as utilities?
We're doing liens on like maybe 4 or 5 properties every year. Technically, we can't do a lien, so we change the language, so we'll be able to assess them to the properties rather than doing liens.
So that's just, is this past ones or it's moving forward? Moving forward.
Yep.
Okay.
And they always go to the commission for approval.
Okay.
Any additional discussion? All right, Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor, hold on. Counselor Christian,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz.
Yes.
Counselor Mack,
Yes.
Counselor Warmka.
Yes.
And President Beck.
Yes, that motion carries. Item number 3.1, temporary on-sale malt liquor license for the Brown County Agricultural Society.
I'll make the motion to approve the issuance of a temporary
Council
on-sale.
President, I'm sorry, could I interrupt for a moment?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt and slow the flow. Given that the previous vote was on a charter amendment, the statute does require that the mayor also approve. So I would recommend
Terry! All right.
No, I'm not sure how I feel about this issue. Yeah, I will vote yes as well.
All right, so just to formalize, we'll just have Director Jorgensen recall the roll, including Mayor Sweeney, whenever you're ready.
Checkbox for him.
Oh, boy.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Warnka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes.
And Mayor Sweeney?
Yes, for the first time in a year and a quarter.
All right, that motion does carry. Thank you, Robert. Moving on to 3.1, we had the temporary on-sale malt liquor license for Brown County Agricultural Society. I believe we did have a motion in progress.
I'll go ahead
Councilor
and
Ronca?
continue that motion of
Okay.
approving the issuance of a temporary on-sale 3.2 malt liquor license to the Brown County Ag Society to sell alcohol at the Brown County Fairgrounds, 1201 North State Street for the event on Saturday, October 1st, 2022, subject to compliance with all city and state requirements.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Pumpkin demo derby, is that what this is? The pumpkin smash or something they call it?
I think so. It's about the timeline.
I believe so.
October 1st.
Probably.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 3.2, Black Frost Distilling LLC liquor license extension.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading, authorizing the request to extend their liquor license to the parking lot adjacent to Black Frost Distilling LLC, 201 First North Street for grand opening event to be held on Saturday, September 24th, 2022, from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Yes, that motion carries. Item number 3.3, transfer of liquor license for Lola Incorporated.
I'll offer the motion to approve the transfer of on-sale wine license, 3.2% malt liquor license, and on-sale intoxicating malt liquor permit from Lola Incorporated to LOL 16 Incorporated DBA Lola 16 North Minnesota Street, including deck and sidewalk calf, for the period beginning September 7th, 2022, ending June 30th, 2023, subject to compliance with all city and state requirements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Yeah, Nicole, is this just Lacey reorganizing her business? I mean, it's still going to be.
It's a sale. It's a transfer.
Oh. All right.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 3.4, lawful gambling permit for Der Deutsche Longbeards.
Motion to approve the issuance of a lawful gambling permit for Der Deutsch Longbeards NWTF, I don't know what that stands for, to conduct raffles gambling at New Ulm Country Club, 1 Golf Drive on Saturday, February 4th, 2023.
Second.
National Wild Turkey Federation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I did hear a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 4.1, planned unit development zoning designation mixed-use residential project. Mr. Nisley.
Good evening. Good evening, councilors. John Nisley, planner with the city of New Ulm. This proposed action is to offer a resolution, waive the reading to approve the application for a planned unit development with the general development plan by Elvin Johnson on behalf of HHF Dreamville New Ulm LLC for the property legally described on the attached Exhibit 1 and generally located at 1800 North Highland Avenue. The Planning Commission at their August 25th, 2022 meeting unanimously recommended approval of the request with conditions based on the finding of fact form that was completed by the commission. Their signed finding of fact form is also included in your council agenda tonight. I do want to go over a brief overview of this project, and I won't make it long. This subject property has a total of 7.61 acres. This property was previously farmed, and a small portion may have been mined. The property is in the process of being annexed into the city of New Ulm from Milford Township. The property is also in the process of being platted as Lot 1, Block 1, Dreamville NU Edition. The owner of the property is HHF Dreamville New Ulm, LLC, and the LLC is owned by Hope Housing Foundation. Hope Housing Foundation proposes to construct 118 units of mixed residential housing. This will include 6 townhomes on the eastern side of the property, 8 twin homes, all fronting Maplewood Drive, and then 2 4-story apartment buildings with a total of 48 units, residential units in each building. The apartment buildings will extend from North Highland Avenue to the east along the south side of the property. Of the 118 units, 88 of them will be classified as workforce housing. Chapter 7.9 of the city's zoning ordinance allows for the establishment of a plan unit development, or PUD zoning. This is actually the first PUD that's been proposed in the city of New Ulm since we updated our zoning ordinance. The definition of a plan unit development is a type of development which may incorporate a variety of land uses planned and developed as a unit. The PUD is distinguished from traditional subdivision processes of development in that such zoning standards, such as density, setbacks, height limits, minimum lot sizes, may be altered by negotiation and agreement between the developer and the municipality. The intent of the PUD is to allow the deviation from the definitive and precise requirements of the established zoning district if the particular areas to be developed can offer a greater value to the community and can preserve the community's health, safety, welfare of those in the same areas were to be developed as a single purpose district. So the deviation they're seeking with this project are 2 things. Number 1, the maximum height limitations per our regulations are 45 feet. The developer is proposing a 50-foot, 9-inch tall, 2 apartment buildings at 50-foot, 9-inch tall. Also, our zoning ordinance does not allow for these types, all 3 of these types of housing units to be together on the same property. So the deviation they're seeking is to go above the height limit to 50 feet, 9 inches, and then to have all 3 types of housing types on the same property. So to establish the plan unit development, they need to have multiple approvals. So number 1, rezoning of the property by ordinance to PUD. The rezoning of the property will be effective upon the city council's adoption of the plan unit development, general development plan for the project. Their general development plan is also included in the staff report sent to you. A plan unit development, general development plan is described in chapter 7.9, a development agreement, and then a final plat. Approval standards. The approved general development plan will establish the permitted uses within the development that are desirable in achieving the objectives of the plan unit development. However, there must be clear evidence of 2 things. 1, that such uses are desirable and appropriate with respect to the primary purpose of the development, and then 2, such uses are not of such nature or so located as to exercise detrimental influence on the development or use of the surrounding neighborhood. So primary issues and alternatives to consider. At the Planning Commission, there were a number of items or questions that came up that people were requesting further information on. Number 1 was the FFA 7460. So the FFA 7460 is a determination of no hazard by the Federal Aviation. And they are currently the developer is currently working on that form with Mead and Hunt. This form and submittal examines the structure elevations in relation to runway approaches to determine if the structure penetrates the approach airspace for safety purposes. A final determination cannot be submitted for the site grade until the site grading and final building elevations are finalized. So in addition to that, a building permit would not be issued until that approval is done by the FFA. There was a question about the need for turning lanes into the apartment complex off of North Highland Avenue. At this time, the city engineer does not see a need for the turning lanes. The Oak Bluffs addition is accessible in a similar configuration on Highland and 9th North Street. Southbound traffic only has 9th North to turn left to gain access to the development. Similar situation to the proposed project here. Bolton and Mink is working on project design for the 2023 Highland project and will provide recommendations if needed for turn lanes, and they could be incorporated into the plans. But the initial discussions with Bolton and Mink is that a turn lane would not be warranted for this project. There is concern over the water pressure capacity to serve the project. Staff has conferred with the Public Utilities Director. There is indeed adequate water pressure to serve the nearby neighborhoods and this project in addition. The construction and extension of Ryan Road came up. This city engineer has noted that we will work with the developer to determine the feasibility to provide a temporary access to the property off of Ryan Road. He would be hesitant to construct permanent improvements until development to the east takes place. This may be challenging due to topographic constraints. There was also a question about the vacancy rate and using the 2017 housing study that was done for the city of New Ulm, which showed that the vacancy rate for rentals, in particular apartments, was 1% or less. So that study, we're currently in the process of having that study updated. We were able to work with a consultant that's working on that for the city to give us preliminary numbers. So they gave us numbers of the vacancy rate for August 2022 as it sits. And for market rate housing, we're at 0.27% vacancy rate. For affordable housing, we're at 0%. There's no open rooms. And then for subsidized housing, we were at 1.8%. Again, though, those are preliminary numbers, and that consultant is waiting on a couple more responses. And then there was also a question on if staff had talked to or looked at other communities to see if there's other similar types of developments in area communities. So I got in contact with the community development directors or the zoning departments of Hutchinson, North Mankato, Mankato, and St. Peter. And in all of those communities, they do have locations where there's high-density residential that directly abuts low-density residential across the street. So they're familiar with this type of project. This project has happened in their communities. So that was their take on it. Let's see. Other than that, we do have a number of attachments here. We have the staff report that went to the Planning Commission. We have the Planning Commission finding of fact. We also had a neighborhood petition that was also sent with your packets, and that is attached. We have a resolution and then the legal description. That would conclude the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Nisley. I mean, this is a lot of information that we're taking in. I did attend the Planning Commission meeting and was able to see John's much more in-depth dive into the findings of facts that the city had done, and to hear from the residents. I'm sure, I know Les, I don't know if you have any comments. I know that this is happening in your ward potentially, and
I do have comments. Let me start off by saying that I know that we need workforce housing. We all know that. We've all heard that from our constituents and our business folks in our community. And I have met with the folks on this street. You saw the petition. Every single person on that street signed that petition. And their major complaints is they always knew when they moved in there that there would eventually be housing across the street. I mean, they just knew that. Many of them called the city and said, what's that zone for? What could be built across that street? And they were told homes just like theirs, not 4-story apartment buildings. And that's their biggest concern, is that their new view, when this is all done, is going to be 4-story apartment, 2 4-story apartment buildings. Their other concern that this is rental property, a rental property complex. They have concerns about that. They have concerns about the woods, the small little bit of woods that are down in the corner, that's going to be wiped out or pretty much gone. There was a lot of talk about the access in and out of this property, and how will that congest? I mean, I know living up on that area that for 30 to 45 minutes, before school starts and after school gets out, that can be blocks long. And if somebody needs to leave that complex area to go to work, and I do, I mean, I always had to plan around that when I left that area if I was going to be during those time periods. So I was really pushing at the planning meeting that I attended as well, that Ryan Road, which is in the back of this development, get developed and actually serve this area and allow for another access out of this property, through the back end. And it sounds like we can get maybe a gravel road there, but I don't know how much more it would cost to put a small layer of tar on top of it, not a permanent street, but at least not have it as a gravel road. So I would like to have that discussed. And speaking with the folks a little bit today, they're also very concerned about the water pressure. They talk about just watering their lawns in that area. There's minimal pressure now. And to add that many more housing units, they're really concerned what it's going to do to the water pressure in their area. It says the Public Utilities Director said it was going to be adequate. Well, what does the word adequate mean? Do we build that and then we find out that we have problems? I still wrestle with the fact that the airport's not given a determination if this is going to be appropriate. It looks like it probably would be, but what if it's not? Is this company going to then say, okay, we're only going to build 3 stories, not 4 on the 2 apartments? Or is it going to shovel all this into a package and they're going to look at somewhere else? So I would really wait, and I mentioned at the planning meeting, I would like to see us wait until we have a little bit more information before we're going any further on this.
Yes, Mr. Nisley.
Just wanted to address a few things. Indeed, there will be some trees removed for the twin homes that will be further east on Maplewood. I should remind you, though, that they are required to do a landscaping plan. Their landscaping plan will require them to plant at least 262 trees and then over 2,000 shrubs and bushes. So they should exceed, for sure, the amount that's going to be removed. And then as far as the response from the Public Utilities Director, I apologize for summarizing in saying that it was adequate, but they actually went out and tested water pressures at Highland and Maplewood, which showed that it had 56 PSI, North Highland and 17, which showed a water pressure of 56 PSI, and then Maplewood and Ryan Road, which had 62 PSI. And Joe, would you mind telling us what kind of average water pressure is?
Madam President, City Councilors, for an average home, typical water pressure is anywhere from 40 to 45 PSI. So,
And Mr. Nisley, I believe from the findings of fact, there were no noted complaints of water pressure in that neighborhood prior to the presentation. Is that correct?
Not that I know of.
Thank you.
One neighbor did let me know prior to the planning commission meeting that there were concerns about water pressure up there. And we tried to address those by taking a look at and take readings up in that neighborhood.
And I do have one question, just spelling it out. I know that people on Maplewood, am I correct? This new site plan, they will be looking at twin homes across the street. The apartment is behind it?
Correct.
Correct. So they're looking at twin homes across the street.
Yes. Correct.
Another concern, I understand what Councilor Schultz means, but I remember when we designed North Highland Avenue, we built that for a high address, high volume traffic and Collector Street. I mean, we built it. I say you use it. I understand that the neighbors don't want it in there. I wish I had a place in my ward to put this thing because New Ulm does need it so bad. I understand their concerns, but Planning Commission went through it. They did a nice job. I'm still going to support it.
I'd like to just add, at the Planning Commission meeting, Elvin Johnson was on our Zoom meeting and his staff, and they answered every one of the questions. We went through it from everybody in the audience at the public hearing, and they went through it detailed, and John's given you a headline of everything that we covered at the meeting that night. And I know Chris called the Public Utilities Director that night also, to verify during the meeting when that question came up about water pressure. you know, and it's a mirror image of Maplewood, you know, where we're having. The neighbors are concerned because it's rental, you know, they're not owned. But their units were rental before they were owned too, so, you know, on those capacities. I mean, the one question did come up, if those, from one of the planning commission members, was that if the units could be sold off eventually, that would depend on lot size to meet our standards for our current zoning. And we don't know those yet because they haven't been plotted out yet. So, on those capacities.
Mr. Nisley, what timeline are we looking at for FAA approval for the height? Do we know that? Is it weeks, months?
Madam President, City Councilors, once final submission is submitted to the FAA, it can take 60 to 90 days for a final determination. As Mr. Nisley previously stated, that our consultant has done some preliminary review to the best of their abilities, and what's being proposed is not intrusive to the airspace. But again, that was a prelim review, and the FAA actually has a contractor that does this work for them.
Makes
But
sense.
it does take some time.
Is there a possibility, if they're really, really close, that they can dig down just another couple of inches to meet, like, I don't know how that works. I don't build things. So, I mean, is that, you know, an opportunity to go down? Because my understanding is the other option would be to not have the rooftop amenities, which include a fitness center and an outdoor dog park,
Well, I think
among other things.
In my mind, we have enough information. If it doesn't meet the flight standard, it's coming back to us. Why, I'm not gonna hold off because of that. It's coming back to us, they can't do it, lower it to 3 stories, move forward.
Yep.
I mean, if we don't want it tonight, the rest of you can vote no. I'm gonna support it.
118 units, and it could be another 50 units above that for high density, so it's within, you know, the reason too, so.
That's a good point, Counselor, because yes, you could have up to, with the way that this is owned, you could have up to 162 units or something of residential. And I think about that, and I did have a conversation with somebody today, but if you go to Walmart or you go to Menards, I mean, there's more than 100 cars in the parking lot, and you're able to get in and out of there, and there's not traffic jams, and there's busy times of day. Go to Hy-Vee an hour before a Vikings game, you know, like, there's always, you know, so there's going to be, so I understand the concerns, but I'm not sure that they're coming from the facts of, you know, what it's really going to look like when you have, I understand that there's a lot of school traffic. I have a high schooler now herself, and she'll be driving soon, so, you know, I don't have concerns. Dave said, you know, that street was built for that, and I don't know, Joe, is there anything you can expand on, you know, as far as that goes? I mean, the width of the street and,
Madam President, City Councilors, North Highland Avenue was designed for at some future date. I don't know if it's going to be in my career or not, but in order to have 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. It's a major arterial collector street for the city. The current loadings are 1,800 vehicles per day, which is pretty minimal, all things considered.
okay. And MnDOT does have in its development plans to put a roundabout there at,
Yep.
yes, and so that is coming as, I mean,
Yeah, in
tell me about that.
2024 will be the roundabout project at North Island and Highway 14. So.
I just want to make sure that we're really taking the time to go through and just to let the folks out there watching know that, you know, we have thought about this and taken the concerns seriously, and the developers are here to maybe answer any other questions that we might have, but this isn't something that we're taking lightly, but that it is an extreme need for the community. I mean, speaking of a 0.27% vacancy rate, I mean, what does that mean for anybody that wants to come here and to take a job here and live here when you can't find somewhere? You know, and these are very good paying jobs, good manufacturing jobs. I mean, we've all gotten things in the mail with the hiring bonuses and the different things that people are trying to do to attract talent, to grow the businesses, to grow our tax base, to do all of those things. And it's very important that we have somewhere great for people to live.
I think
And so I will approve this project.
I think it's also to note that, you know, you need different styles and types of homes, and if you're going to get transitional people to come into the community, he or she is not going to buy a house right away. They want to test the waters to see if it's a good fit for their job, and they're looking for a place to rent. And I work at 3M, and a lot of those folks all commute from Mankato daily, and it would be nice to keep those people in our community. and-
Working and shopping and spending money in our community. There was, go ahead. I
One
lost my
question
train
I
of thought.
have, I take it that the residents out in that area, they all got to see this architectural rendering?
Yes.
Okay,
They got to see it when the planning commission agendas went out.
all right, thank you.
And another one, just a couple of comments for those maybe not watching the planning commission. I mean, John, can you just kind of summarize the type of energy efficient means going into these houses, the LED lighting and the flooring and even the ventilation systems that are going to be, I don't know, maybe that's something for
So,
someone else, but.
Essentially, the way I understand it from our city building official, Elwood Zabla, is these are almost going to be LEED certified types of buildings. So super energy efficient. The twin homes, if I understand correctly, are going to have in-floor heat in both the living quarters and the garages. There is a ventilation system that is supposed to kill, is it bacteria? Or supposed to kill particles that go through the ventilation system, and that all, has kind of flowered a bit since COVID has happened. So these are going to be highly efficient units. They're also doing they're called SIP panels. So again, it's going to be constructed fairly quickly and a SIP panel is essentially, it's imagine two boards with foam insulation in between. So these are going to be very efficient units, both twin homes, townhomes, and apartments.
Is it possible, John, to put that, so the general public, anybody watching, we can put that architectural rendering up, just so they can see it?
Hold on 1 second here.
And while he's looking at that, I think us as counselors and in some of the other roles that we have spoken to a lot of business leaders and community leaders that have expressed their desire to have additional housing, have additional daycare. There's a couple of top of mind topics that that are very important to them. And
Thank you.
yes.
Just so the general public can see it.
To describe this a little bit, on the top picture, we're looking at the proposed row houses, so the 6 row houses on the east side of the property. The bottom picture, we're kind of taking a cross view to the west. We have the apartments to the left, and then we have the townhomes that are fronting Maplewood to the right. And then here's kind of an aerial photo looking down Maplewood. So again, in this photo, this rendering, we have the twin homes on the left and the apartments on the right.
And I'm just thinking about some of the things, the Armory, when is that expected, 2025? Like expansion, bringing,
Potentially.
2024,
Potentially.
and
2025.
that's expected to bring in a lot of
Jobs.
jobs, close to 90 jobs. Wouldn't it be nice for those military families to have somewhere proximity to, that they don't have to drive to Mankato or somewhere else? I know this is a lot of work. I know that there's some very strong opinions out there on this. But this is needed. This is what our city needs, and that is why I will support this. And I have not seen anything on here that is making me think otherwise. Chris, the developing company that you said that they've done other similar developments, can you just name some of those as well?
So they've done one in the city of Laverne. I've met with their city manager and mayor, and they both have nothing but good things to say about the project out there. And they've also done, was it West St. Paul as well. And you can, if you wanted to look it up, it's 252 Rooftop. And that's literally pretty much the same project, and it's immaculate and looks amazing and would be a very good addition to the community. We're sitting at a time where we have the chance and the opportunity to take a step forward and move the city in a direction of growth. When we look at where we are as a city, we don't have a lot of room, a lot of land to build. We're kind of landlocked by farm. So when you look at development, up is the way to go. It's not, again, I don't need a 30-story building or something, but up is the direction when you can't go out. And this, again, I think it fits kind of that area, and it's set far back enough to where it's not going to be an eyesore to the houses across the street, because there is that buffer zone, and it kind of plays off a little bit, and they'll have access farther down on Highland that they won't impede on Maplewood, with the exception of when the construction comes through for the roundabout.
Yes, Chris, I got a question in regards to the rental. Are we going to be able to keep up with our inspections as far as with our staffing for yearly inspections? Does Paul feel he can handle that, or are we going to have to look at increase the staff with more rental units?
He will.
Oh, what I think it'll be.
You add more units, you know, everything's got to be looked at. I'm assuming these are all sprinklered. And
And we do every other year for rental, so we can cycle the buildings to offset, so it's not all 118 at the same time. Maybe the initial inspection and then offset them, so we can cut that down. But between Mike, Paul, and Elwood, I think we got it covered, and John can step in too.
See where it goes. I'm going to offer a resolution, waive the reading to improve the application for a plan unit development with a general development plan by Alvin Johnson on behalf of HHF Dreamville New Ulm LLC for the property legally described on the attached Exhibit 1 and generally located at 1800 North Highland Avenue.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
No.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Yes, that motion does carry. Item number 4.2, comprehensive plan amendment, change designation from low-density residential to high-density residential.
Okay. Again, this is for the same project that we're talking about, and the legal description is the same. The Planning Commission at their August 25th, 2022 meeting unanimously recommended approval of the request with conditions based on the finding of fact form that was completed by the commission. Again, that's included in the report to you all tonight. I did want to give a brief overview because I believe this is also an important step with this project. Number one, the definition of a comprehensive plan is an official document adopted by a local unit of government as a policy guide to decisions about the physical development of the city. The plan is intended to be comprehensive, general, and long range. Comprehensive plan is intended to provide an outline for future community development. The plan provides a foundation for land use management and control. So a little bit of history here. Our current comprehensive plan was completed in 2007. We are working on updating that comprehensive plan along with 4 smaller area plans, and we're expected to have that new comprehensive plan completed by probably late spring of 2023. There is certain amendment criteria that are found in the city zoning ordinance, so requirements that would need to be met in order to deviate from what the comprehensive plan says currently, and they are the following. 1, whether the proposed amendment corrects an error or addresses a need resulting from a changing condition, trend, or fact arising since the adoption of the comprehensive plan. Whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. 3, to the extent which the proposed amendment addresses a demonstrated community need. 4, whether the proposed amendment will provide a public benefit and protect the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the public. 5, the impacts on the natural and built environments, including air, water, noise, stormwater management, wildlife habitat, water quality, vegetation, drainage, streets, and other engineering design or environmental factors. 6, whether the proposed amendment is compatible with the existing and proposed uses surrounding the subject property, whether the proposed design and land uses are appropriate for the land, and whether the proposed amendment will maintain or improve compatibility among uses to ensure efficient development of the city. 7, whether the proposed amendment will result in a logical, orderly, and predictable development pattern. And then lastly, whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the purpose of the city zoning ordinance. So what we're dealing with here is amending the comprehensive plan to go from low density to high density. And I do want to read those definitions according to our comprehensive plan out loud. So low density residential provides areas for neighborhoods of primarily single-family housing. Single-family housing can be described as building intended to serve as a dwelling for one person or family unit. The traditional freestanding detached home provides the most common example of single-family housing. Structures designed as a dwelling for two families, duplex or twin home, are also an allowed form of low-density residential. The low-density residential designation applies to both older and developing neighborhoods in New Ulm. In general, this category applies to all areas of single-family homes. The comprehensive plan defines high-density residential as a land use that is intended to provide a place for multi-story apartment and condominium buildings. These areas may also include an integrated mixture of single and multiple-story housing types. The land use plan will designate areas with land use, services, and streets needed to support this additional density. The city will use zoning regulations to control the maximum density of high-density residential. Current zoning regulations allow for one type of high-density zoning district, R3, multiple family residence district. And since the zoning ordinance has been updated, we actually are now going all the way up to R4. So primary issues and alternatives to consider with this request. Does the proposed amendment meet the criteria found in Appendix A, Section 2.4 of the City Code? And is this an appropriate location for high-density residential land uses given the surrounding comprehensive planned land use designations? If approved, we would recommend one condition, that the applicant and owner will pay the cost to record necessary documents with the Brown County Recorder's Office. And that would conclude the staff report.
One question I have, John, is, we just adopted our lengthy rewriting of our zoning ordinance. Our comp plan has nothing in there like with a PUD general development plan.
Not our
Nothing.
current comp plan, no.
Right, that's what, we have to go through a lot of this because we adopted in our new zoning ordinance the PUD, and there's no mention of that in the comprehensive plan.
No, other than the high density.
High density.
High density designation does acknowledge the fact that it could be a mixture of housing
Mixture.
types. So it could be single-family, townhomes, and apartments.
Thank you.
I think we've covered it. After the second one here. So I'm going to offer the resolution to waive the reading, approve the petition of Elvin Johnson on behalf of HHF Dreamville New Ulm LLC to amend the city's comprehensive plan to allow high-density residential land uses in places of low-density residential land uses for the property legally described on the attached exhibit number 1 and generally located at 1800 North Highland Avenue.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
No.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Betker.
Yes, that motion does carry. Item number 4.3, preliminary plot of Dreamville NU addition.
All right. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this preliminary plat with conditions at their August 25th, 2022 meeting. At the meeting, they did add a 7th condition, and I'm just going to go through the conditions out loud here. The recommended conditions were to pay the platting fee of $205, which is a base fee of $175 and a $30 per lot fee. Pay the parkland dedication fee of $1,050 per lot. Again, there's one lot we're talking about here. The applicant should provide an electronic file of the drawing to the city in AutoCAD 2016 or newer format. The developer shall enter into a development agreement with the city of New Ulm. That there's a resolution approving the request that will be filed with the Brown County Recorder's Office. The final plat of the property will be approved by the City of New Ulm and filed with the Brown County Recorder's Office by December 1st, 2022. And then lastly, the Planning Commission recommended that the final plat shall provide a 10-foot wide utility easement around the perimeter of the platted property for utility purposes. That would conclude the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Nisley.
I'll motion to approve with the 7 stated conditions the preliminary plat of Greenville, New Ulm addition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry.
I need to call.
roll.
Oh, yep, that's right. Yep. Go ahead.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
No.
Counselor Wormka?
Yes.
And President Becker.
Yes, that motion does carry. Item number 5.1, second consideration of ordinance 2022-058, amending section 5.42, temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor licenses.
Counselors, this just brings us up to date with the state laws and removes the limit of more than one license during a 30-day period.
Thank you, and this is the second consideration.
I'll offer a
Motion.
motion to conduct the second consideration of ordinance 2022-058, amending section 5.42 of the city code, the city of New Ulm, relative to temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor license, removing the limit of one temporary license in a 30-day period.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 6.1, first consideration of ordinance number 2022 Chapter 8, Blight Protection Exceptions. I think is it 8.63?
8.63, yes.
Okay.
All right. Council President, councilors, before you have an amendment, I know we've talked about this for quite some time, and this is just on the blight and an exception to that. So what we're proposing here is that 8.63 no longer applies to automobile repair major and automobile repair minor, as defined in section 13.3 of the New Ulm zoning ordinance. And the same may be amended for automobile dealerships and distributors as defined by Minnesota statute 168.002 subdivision 6 and 7, as the same may be amended. Automobile repair businesses must be in compliance with automobile repair minor and automobile repair major regulations contained in section 9.2 of the New Ulm zoning ordinance as applicable, and the outdoor storage requirements contained in section 9.3D 18 of the New Ulm zoning ordinance. So what this effectively will do is remove the ability to call in an 863 violation on auto repair major and minor, but they will fall under our zoning ordinance, which still stipulates 30 days for a vehicle. So a vehicle can't be there longer than 30 days, and we will have teeth to behind enforcing that through our zoning agency.
And this is something that we reviewed with our city attorney as well, correct?
Yes.
And this will come back to us again. It's the first
This is
consideration.
first consideration, yes.
So does this go out to the major and minor automobile repair businesses so they are aware this is happening?
Yes, we will get that out to
So
them.
they've all been notified? Okay.
They will be.
Fine.
We haven't.
They will be
Yeah,
notified.
once it,
If we approve this?
yep,
Okay.
if you approve it.
I'll make the motion to conduct the first consideration of ordinance amending Chapter 8, Section 8.63, junk cars, household furnishings, et cetera, stored on public or private property, Subdivision 2, exceptions of the city code of the city of New Ulm relative to blight.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 6.2, appointments to the Human Rights Commission.
Well, you see the three people ahead of you, Ally. She used to be Fleischman, Ron Fleischman's daughter, Ally. Would take Larry Sayre's term. Stephanie Scutari is going to take Dan Kulk's term. And just today, I was in the office and Julia Lutz Lawler called and said she cannot take this here. So we'd really be looking for approval of Ally and Stephanie on this. I've got people in mind for the third position, but we need to go through the process.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll offer that motion to approve that as stated by the mayor.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? I am just going to note that I've noticed a lot of turnover on this commission compared to some other commissions. And, you know, maybe it's time to kind of get back to the roots and look in our charter and our code and, you know, look at the definition of what our Human Rights Commission is. I think it's extremely important. It's one of the oldest around. I think it was formed back in the 70s. That's something that makes me very proud. But I really have been seeing a lot of turnover on this. And I think maybe it's time we just kind of go, you know, boil it back down and find out, you know, what is this commission really for? And how can we get people to serve on this and stay? So I want to make sure we're setting the, you know, right expectations, because I'm just going to make that comment. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. Welcome, Ally and Stephanie. Appointment to the Library Board, item number 6.3.
I'll make the motion to approve the appointment of Hope Freeze to the Library Board to fill the unexpired term of Gabby Budinsky.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. Welcome, Hope. Item number 6.4, Fire Department donations.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading to accept the following donations to the fire department. $7,000 from Herb Knutson, lamplighter, that was raised through the Arctic Plunge, and $284 from the Brown County Agriculture Society, Fire Brick Day auction and donations. Thank you.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Being one of the judges at that Arctic Plunge, it was fun to see Herb actually plunge himself. And so thank you very much to that group for their donations to nonprofits, including our fire department.
Yes, good event. Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Motion does carry. Item number 7.1, report of claims paid.
Motion to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $7,418,163.47.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. With no additional business, we will adjourn this meeting and move into a work session momentarily.
Somebody's giving me a 5-minute.